4000 project to translate the words of the Buddha into English. His Holiness has been an early and strong supporter of this project from the first meeting nearly 5 years ago until now. His Holiness and the leaders of all 4 orders of Tibetan Buddhism have bestowed their blessings on this project. And His Holiness has supported the involvement of key translators in the Sakya order in this important work. We're also very happy to have at this auspicious gathering Venerable Khenpo Kalsang Gyaltsen, our temple's abbot, who, as one of His Holiness translators, has also translated a number of the sutras in this project, including some of the ones you will be reading today. Khenpo Kalsang also hosted the second meeting of the Working Committee of the 84,000 Project here at Tsechen Kunchab Ling about 4 years ago. We dedicate today's sutra reading to the late, great Western Buddhist scholar and bodhisattva, Gene Smith. He made it his life's work to find, collect, study, catalog, and digitize every possible Tibetan Dharma manuscript. Beginning in the 1960s, he labored for a half a century, faithfully carrying out the instructions of his teacher, the very Venerable Dezhung Rinpoche, to find and save the Tibetan Buddhist texts. At a critical moment when the political changes in Tibet scattered and destroyed this precious 1,000-year-old heritage, he searched for the texts one by one, found them, saved them, and later digitized them and put them on the web. Without his wise and compassionate efforts, most of this project would never have become possible. The 84,000 Project is an effort to translate the entire Tibetan Buddhist canon into the world's modern languages, starting with English, and then to make those translations freely available to everyone on the internet and on other platforms yet to be invented in the future. This is a very big project, and it's very, very important. It's a big project because, as the name 84,000 implies, the Buddha spoke 84,000 articles of Dharma. These 84,000 teachings are known as the Kanjur. It comprises 70,000 pages. It's a whole bookcase full of teachings spoken by the Buddha. The Tibetan Buddhist canon also includes another section known as the Tenjur, which is 160,000 pages of commentaries on the sutras by the great Indian masters such as Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, and others. Together, the Kanjur and Tenjur total 230,000 pages. It fills several large bookcases. And you see here in our shrine across the top, the red and gold books are the Kanjur and Tenjur. This embodies the Buddha's teachings. Every day when we do prostrations, we prostrate to them. But in order for them to become an object of study here in English-speaking lands, we need to translate them into English. The 84,000 Project estimates that translating the Tanjur and Kanjur into English will take about 100 years of sustained human efforts of the Tibetan Buddhism have blessed this project. One of the reasons why, in their wisdom and compassion, they know it to be so important is that to be able to study and read the complete collection of the Buddha's works is a necessary prerequisite for the full and authentic transmission of the Dharma into a new culture and a new language. Until the Buddha's words are translated, we can't read them. Without reading them, we can't properly study them. Without study, there's no correct meditation. And without meditation, there's no realization. Another reason why translating the entire Tibetan Buddhist canon is very important is that the Buddha's words and the commentaries on them by the great Indian masters are an authentic map and an accurate record of how to lead the path beyond suffering to Buddhahood. Therefore, the sutras are truly pure gold. But at this time, only about 9% of the Kanjur and Tenjur have been translated into English. Literally, only a very small nugget of all that gold. These days, there's a continual waterfall of books, blogs, tweets about Buddhist topics being produced by anyone who possesses an opinion and a computer, myself included. These trendy texts are yellow-colored, sometimes even gold-plated, but they're not truly solid gold, like the words of the Buddha himself. In English now, we have so many Buddhist books, but so few sutras. So many new opinions about Buddhism, but so little study of the classic commentaries by the great Indian masters. Until we complete the full English translation of the Kanjur and Tenjur and its authentic map to enlightenment, the Dharma in the West will easily wander along mistaken paths that look like gold but are not truly authentic. There's a third reason why the effort to translate the Kanjur and Tenjur into modern languages, beginning with English, is important. Great Tibetan scholars who are masters of the Kanjur and Tenjur are now very senior in years, and many have already gone beyond our ability to receive their instruction and explanations. In addition to that, monks with high levels of literacy in Tibetan required for good translation are rapidly dwindling. Due to the political changes in Tibet, many Tibetan children in China grow up reading and speaking Chinese. Those who live outside of Tibet learn Nepali, Hindi, Swiss, English, but precious little Tibetan. It's only in the monasteries where the study of Tibetan is flourishing strongly. Therefore, the translation efforts must begin immediately and continue quickly so that we can save the precious teachings of the Buddha as faithfully recorded in the Tibetan canon and bring them into modern languages while the experts to guide us are still with us. So 5 years ago, the 84,000 Project was conceived, and an international nonprofit was set up to begin to translate the Tibetan Kanjur and Tenjur. Under the chairmanship of Venerable Dzongtsar Chensei Rinpoche and the very skillful leadership of the executive director, Ms. Huang Jing Rui, it's now well underway. After spending the first year carefully laying the scholarly and organizational groundwork, grants were offered to qualified teams for translation work on the Kanjur. Now, well over 100 translators at universities and monasteries around the world have received grants. A good portion of the Kanjur is now in the process of translation. The very first fruits, carefully reviewed and finalized, are now posted on the web in the 84,000 online reading room. They're free and available to the world, and copies of them will be distributed to you today. I encourage you to go to the 84,000 website and read the sutras, download them, share them with people. They're also available in the new Tsechen Kunchab Ling library. Tell your friends and share with them these pure nuggets of gold. Today we'll read several of 84,000's first translations. And we'd like to thank the director, Huang Jing Rui, for sponsoring this sutra reading, and Selena and Polino for sponsoring the distribution of tea and sweet rice to the assembly. We'll begin with preliminary prayers, which you can join in, and following that, we'll read aloud the words of the Buddha. Each person will read a different sutra, all at the same time, and it creates a great, beautiful, auspicious resounding of the words of the Buddha. As you read your own sutra aloud, you can also listen to the different sutras that other people are reading. You start with the sutra that's passed out to you, but skip the prefaces, the translator's introductions, and all the footnotes. These are not pure gold. Just read the gold, the Buddha's words. After this, I'd like to turn the teaching over, I'd like to turn the event over to Sarah Wilkinson from the 84,000 Project. She'll explain a little bit more about the project and what it's accomplished. After that, we'll have the blessing of His Holiness Sakya Trizin's remarks and advice to us about this project.
My name is Sarah Wilkinson, and I'm the North American team leader for the volunteers for 84,000, translating the words of the Buddha. Chodrung Kunga just did such a beautiful job discussing the project and how it came into effect. So I'll be very brief, and I may be a little repetitive. So some of you may have heard about the project before. We know, as Chodrung Kunga just explained, that the purpose of the project is to translate the Tibetan canon into English and other modern languages. Of course, it's an immense task, and as she mentioned, it involves a translation of 230,000 pages that comprise the Kanjur and the Tenjur, which have been written in classical Tibetan. And this classical Tibetan language is now facing threat to its survival. There are only a small number of lamas, scholars, and translators alive today who have the necessary training and education to be able to make sense of the rich and complex teachings of the Buddha and his disciples in this older form of Tibetan. Our initial goal is the translation of the 70,000 pages of the Kanjur and some of the related volumes of the Tenjur that contain the spoken words of the Buddha in over 1,100 texts. Additionally, we're working very hard to put into place the infrastructure necessary for consistent translation, communication, publication, and dissemination of these texts, as well as infrastructure that will allow for the education and support of future generations of translators. Again, as Chodrung Kunga said, we're so incredibly fortunate to have had the support of His Holiness since the very beginning, as he was one of the very first to give his blessings and his resources to our effort. The Sakya Pandita Translation Group, which as you know is under his guidance, has been integral to our success thus far. To date, we have 28 teams of 153 translators from across the globe. Of the 70,000 pages of the Kanjur, we have nearly 16,000 of those pages either translated or in the process of translation. This is nearly 22% of the Kanjur. Of the 17 texts that have been published, 8 of them have been translated by the Sakya Pandita Translation Group. We also have had over 2 million hits on our reading room by internet users, and there have been 68,000 text downloads from our reading room. And our readers come from over 100 countries. And while this is great news, we still have a long, long way to go. And we have more works under translation than we have sponsored at this point. So we hope that you will spread the word and encourage the sponsorship of a text or a page or a word. Today we'll be resounding those words of the Buddha that have been translated to date into English by the Sakya Pandita Translation Group under the commission of 84,000. Most markedly will be the first ever resounding in English of this group's most recent translation, the Akashagarbha Sutra, as well as the 7 other works from the Kanjur translated thus far by this group. Today, as Chodrung Kunga mentioned, His Holiness will be leading us in a mini version of a traditional resounding by reading aloud in English these newly translated words of the Buddha. On behalf of 84,000, we thank you, Your Holiness, for the tremendous support of 84,000 in so many ways, and especially for honoring us by leading this resounding today. May the words of the Buddha flourish and be heard by all.
Now we'd like to request Your Holiness to bless us with some words of advice and explanation. Thank you.
Venerable Sangha members and all Dharma brothers and sisters, first of all, I would like to welcome you all on this sutra reading assembly, and I myself very happy to participate in this sutra reading, because even just by one word of Buddha, to hear or to recite is great merits. And as we all know, the source of all the happiness and benefits is Buddha's teachings. The Lord Buddha, who created the enlightenment mind for the benefit of all sentient beings, and in the meantime accumulated the merit and wisdom and eventually attained the full enlightenment. And after attaining the enlightenment, that he have performed many great activities, such as the physical activities, mental activities, and so on. But the most important activity is the turning the wheel of Dharma, by giving the teachings, what he has already realized, what he has gained, the wisdom that he gained, he gave to the beings. And so what he gave, that we practice, and then through that we overcome the suffering of samsara and attain the liberation and enlightenment. And so therefore, the most important is the Buddha's voice activities. And so originally, of course, all the teachings were in Sanskrit and the Pali languages in India. And then later, through the kind patronage of the Tibetan Dharma kings, and also the great blessings of the Indian masters, and also through the great hardship of the Tibetan translators, they've been able to translate so many teachings. Probably Tibetan collection is the most complete, which contains the Hinayana teachings, Mahayana teachings, and Vajrayana teachings. And so now to share this great treasure to the world is to translate. And I'm very happy that now the project is in progressing. And one of my the incarnation of my great guru, the incarnation, His Eminence Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche is initiating this project, and the present Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche is the third incarnation. The first Khyentse Rinpoche, the first Dzongsa Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, was very great master. Although the Tibet, in many different traditions, they have so many innumerable masters who had great wisdom and great activities in benefiting enormous beings. But there are few, and most of them are in their own field, like Sakya masters to do on their own schools, whereas others also in their own schools, they have great wisdom and also in their own field their great activities. But there are very few that who carries the entire tradition, Buddhist traditions. And Jang Khyentse Wangpo was one of the few who took the entire Tibetan Buddhism, not just one school, but entire school, that he received the teachings from many sources with a lot of difficulties, a lot of going through so much hardship. And then not only that he received them, but he studied them and practiced them. And then later, and he has done so much, even though he is fairly young, but during this lifetime, he has so much teachings that he received, and so much things that many older lamas could not do, that he has already done. And now that he is carrying on this 84,000 project, which is very important. As I said, that without the books, then it is difficult to study, and without studying you can't contemplate. Without contemplation you can't meditate. Without the meditation you can't make the progress. So therefore it is very important. Now the world where English is of course one of the most important language in the world. So now to translate the entire 84,000 into English is a very great project that I wholeheartedly. Most monasteries have the copy of this too, and then people, of course, as we have here, put it in the shrine, and then do prostrations and make offerings. And it is said that even just by doing one prostration or offering one light will of course earn a great merit. But the more important thing is that it is not just only to pay respect or to keep in the shrine and to make offerings. Most important thing is that we must study. Through the study, we must gain the blessings. His Holiness the Dalai Lama pointed very clearly that the Kangyur is very, very important, very holy. We must respect, we must do prostrations, everything, but it is not just to doing the prostrations. We must study, we must take them out of the shelf, and we must open them and study and learn, use us as textbooks. Then you can gain the actual blessings. Not only the monks and nuns, but even the lay people also should study and we must. His Holiness Dalai Lama says, as a Buddhist now, we must make a 21st century Buddhist, which means that we should just not follow the traditions and do the ceremonies and worship, do prostrations, make offerings, do circumambulations. These are of course very meritorious. They are very, very important. But the more important is we must gain the knowledge. The Buddha's teaching is not just on the temples or the statues or the offering objects, but they are every individual's the mind and how we develop. If our mind becomes more pacified and more tamed, and be able to control and not controlled by our negative emotions, then we are making progress. Then we are spreading the Buddha's Dharma. Then the Buddha Dharma is progressing. Otherwise, even though there are a lot of people, a lot of practicing, but Dharma is not progressing. The progress of Dharma means individuals, we must make the progress in the practice of Dharma. And to do that, we need the text. And so therefore, this project is of course very, very important. And of course this very big project, but I think it's an absolutely essential project, and we wish this project will meet with complete success. And I'm sure through the great blessings of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and that it will be done in great success. And so now, today we will recitation of the sutras is of course great merit. And also I feel that by doing this way, that it will be kind of like to clear the obstacles, and so that the 84,000 project will go very smoothly and successfully. So by reciting the sutras here today, we will dedicate that all the project will be meet with a complete success, and all the leaders and directors and all the people who are directly involved in 84,000 project will have to complete fulfill your wishes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Your Holiness. Surely with your blessings and your prayers and this auspicious gathering and the reading of these wonderful sutras, it will become just as you aspire. Now, please open your text. We have the recitations for receiving preliminary recitations for sutra readings. We will do these in English, and we'd like to request Khenpo Pema Wangdok to do that. And as the recitations are being done, we will offer the tea and sweet rice, which have been generously sponsored. And also a mandala offering will be made by the 84,000 Project to His Holiness. Then after the mandala offering, we will pass out a sutra to each person. And if you prefer your sutra in the Tibetan language, please so indicate. We have also sutras in Tibetan. And then when His Holiness rings the bell, then we will all begin reading at the same time aloud. We're all reading different sutras. It's like an orchestra warming up. The idea is to create a great and beautiful resounding of these precious words that will benefit all living beings, remove their obstacles, and enlighten them. So you will not be reading the same sutra as the person beside you, but you should read it aloud until His Holiness rings the bell again, at which time then we will dedicate the merit.